Flamengo TV. Today, I wanted to highlight a bit about the first half, where Flamengo had very few shots on goal, right? Only 4 shots, and perhaps, I don't know if it's a coincidence or not, it was the moment since your arrival that the team suffered the most transitions and it ended up suffering many counters from Remo, who organized themselves there with Left Manga switching sides, which brought some difficulties during the first half. I wanted to hear from you if, in your opinion, there's a symmetry. When the team shoots more, it finishes the play and suffers fewer transitions. Or do you think that this symmetry doesn't exist?
Good evening, everyone. This asymmetry sometimes exists, sometimes it doesn't. But today, in the first half, I think the sterile possession that we talked about earlier happened many times. We circulated the ball a lot, but we weren't aggressive enough to penetrate the opponent's defensive block, and this led to many turnovers that gave rise to some counterattack opportunities. And it was a subject that I discussed with the players at halftime. We discussed that we needed to be more effective in terms of playing between the lines rather than just circulating the ball from one side to the other. And that's what the players did. Congratulations to them. Only intelligent players like them with great ability can come in so quickly in the second half, and in 50 minutes we played and resolved the game. We played 15 minutes doing what we like to do. Pressing high, keeping the lines close together, winning the first and second balls, creating situations. And of course, after the 30 minutes, tragically, we rotated some players because we have a game in 3 days. And also, we had a bit more possession to manage the game so that the opponent wouldn't get out of their own half.
Good evening, Jardim. Here to your right is Roger. Grupo Globo. Flamengo faces Corinthians away from home on Sunday, a difficult opponent that Flamengo already faced this year in the Supercopa, but under different conditions than now, right? Well, it's the beginning of the season. The physical condition was far from ideal. The team couldn't perform. And I wanted you to evaluate a bit of this assessment, this evolution, pardon the expression, of Flamengo so far. How do you see the team arriving to face Corinthians away from home? Is it already at the level you imagine to be ideal, or close to ideal, or close to ideal? Anyway.
I think the next game will be a little different from this one. Corinthians is a team that will also play, and so will we. Certainly, we have a lot of respect for Corinthians as a club, but Flamengo, regardless of where it plays, also has to have its DNA and a winning attitude. And now, tomorrow morning, we will start to recover the players who played the most time. The others will start working with them in order to present a competitive team, both in the starting 11 and later for those who will enter the game. How was it today? We value those who came in and also gave the team more support and a greater capacity to put pressure on them, which is important, and we have these solutions and this group.
Jardim, Rice and Simplicio here. Good evening. Jardim o Piscina, at least in the last few games, Samuel Bino, who gets closer to the area, who tries to finish. He even scored a goal again, Bodofogo. He scored again today. Samuel Bino, a little different from what we saw from him last year, even at the beginning of this year. I wanted you to tell me your idea for him, why he changed. He's a player who seems more incisive, who tries more shots, and who has also helped with good passes.
No, we have a concern not only with Lino, but with all the cool wingers. Today, it was Orjo too. Sabino came in, Paquetá played. Plata also came in, Rascal came in. Well, we're concerned about filling the area. That is, the more players we put in the area, the more options we have for the ball to fall at our feet. Because if we only think about the striker entering the area, a team like Flamengo, which really wanted to, we'd be playing with 4 opposing players against one of ours. And that's why we always try to have our players fill the area in the finishing zones. So, Lino has also understood this. Just as Arojo today, from the inside, already knew it's a rebound. Falls at Arojo's feet because he's inside the area. If he had stayed close to the line, he certainly wouldn't have scored that goal. And this is a more collective idea. It's not just an idea directed at Lino, but it's an idea directed at our wingers filling the areas of the area.
Jardim, good evening. Good evening, Pablo Rua, here from Borge. Dodonim. You chose to start with Pulga and Leal Pereira today, right? Both of whom were suspended for the game against Corinthians. Was that your strategy? Perhaps it wouldn't have been better to save them for an away game. How was that discussed between them?
Well, honestly, my option was to start with the players I thought were most relevant for this game in order to win, which was the most important thing. Regarding the next game, of course, we're now starting to think about the next game, and those two players are out. But to be completely honest, with a team of Flamengo's caliber, every player who sees action must clearly demonstrate why they are here at Flamengo. If I'm not mistaken, in the Libertadores final, there were one or two less used players who ended up scoring the decisive goal. Danilo, this is a squad of football. We can't think that we have 11 for the most important games, and the others are for the less important games. And for us, what's important is the opponent. The opponent doesn't have a name, and the one who has a name is Flamengo. And Flamengo goes into each game with the objective of winning. The objective there was to win, to do things well. Well, unfortunately, those players are out, but for sure we have Danilo and Vitado. They're also waiting for an opportunity to play. In midfield, we have players like Paquet, Nico, and Everton, who are all hoping to get a chance to play.
As a coach, it's not something that worries me because I believe in the solutions that exist within the team.
From here, because I can't be saying that we are among the best squads in Latin America and then not believing the players who play less. No. Sometimes they play less because only 10 can play, plus a goalkeeper, they can't play more. Even today, Aho showed a player who hadn't had a consistent run of games. He played 90 minutes and ended up scoring a goal and having a good game, especially in the second half, e-game. And for me, this confidence we have at Flamengo is total confidence in all the players at us.
Jardim, good evening. This is Fabio Torres, Canal Deco, CRN. Isn't the Flamengo roster comprised of quite a few players who play on the flanks? There are many extremes. But in your style of play, Flamengo plays more centrally, right? As regards the play. We see a great change in Samo, but on the right hand side, we still perceive some difficulty in adapting there. In your work in these days, you've been working, do you analyze that Flamengo need to sign more midfielders, either to play specifically on the right and also someone on the left, or if the players they have in the squad are sufficient, and if you also see that Gonzalo Plata can perform that function on right side?
Certainly, at this moment, there are many solutions. Plata, Carrasqueles. Paqueta also does it. We have Lino. We have Cibolina. These are players that I like to play centrally in some situations, sometimes make runs behind the opponent's line, and also balance the team because that's fundamental. That's why many times at 60 minutes I make substitutions because they're already tired and because balancing the team isn't just about attacking. We have to attack and defend. We have to attack and defend. So what am I saying about playing inside? Well, inside is a strategy we've been working on little by little. I know that in the recent past, they were more open. They played more on the line in one-on-one situations. Even more. Sometimes the fullbacks were the ones who were inside. Now, at this moment, I want to associate a little more inside play with that initial idea I told you about filling the area. If all the players are closer to the area, they are more inside or closer to the area for the decisive moments.
Jardim here. Yes, today Flamengo's group in the Libertadores was defined. Estudiantes de La Plata, Cusco, a distant and difficult opponent because of the altitude, and also Independiente, Medellin, Bogotá. I wanted to know how you receive this Libertadores schedule and how important it is for you to have 10 days to work with the squad a week before Flamengo's debut, considering that when you arrived, you were already facing a very long sequence of games and didn't have much time to train with the players. I wanted you to talk a little about that and how you received this information about Flamengo's group in the Libertadores. Thank you.
Okay. Independent of the teams within our group, we have the responsibility of qualifying all team. Honestly, if you ask me if I already know the teams, no, I haven't seen anything yet because I only found out about the draw today. They aren't teams I have a great affinity with and can't talk about right now. Therefore, I haven't made any assessments regarding our opponents. Our focus remains on fulfilling our duty and qualifying. Regarding the time we'll have to work, especially with those players who aren't going to the national team, those players who will stay with us and will have a little more work. But in strategic terms, even with just a few days, we've worked immensely. The players have had a formidable attitude. Tomorrow morning, we'll be back at the training center to train again. And with the collaboration of all the Flamengo staff, we've managed to make the most of our limited time with a lot of work.
Good evening, David Ferreira from Jornal Global. Congratulations on the victory. In a previous answer, you mentioned some players who haven't yet played with you, like Tanulu and Andrew. But I also want to ask you about De La Cruz, right? He's a player who also hasn't played in the 4 games you've been in charge of Flamengo. He was out of the game against Botafogo because of the synthetic turf. He returned to the squad today, but didn't play. I wanted to know his current situation, how you plan to use him if he has any physical limitations, right? How is that going? How do you plan to use De La Cruz this season? Thank you.
No, De La Cruz is a player that everyone knows for his quality. Sometimes we've had some concerns, and because of his condition, like at Botafogo, I wasn't in the group. And then the strategy hasn't involved changing. Jorginho's doing well, isn't he? And then the management has been working with other players. But he is a player whose quality I know. He is an international player. He is a player who, when called upon, like how was today, like Arj was today, I believe he will perform within what is his.
Jardim, how are you? Good evening, Gabriel Orfan, Paparazzo Rubro Negro channel. Jardim, still talking about Flamengo's group in the Libertadores. I was doing a quick search here and I asked you to correct me if I'm wrong. But from what I researched, you only managed 1 game at altitude in continental competitions. Is it in continental competitions? The Cruzeiro game against Mushukruna of Ecuador last year. I want to know what your experience was like being on sidelines in a game at altitude and how do you analyze it? Playing at an even higher altitude, right? The altitude in Cusco is higher than the one you were at last year with Cruzeiro against Mushukruna. Thank you.
My feeling in that game was that the ball, due to the air, becomes much faster, doesn't it? And often these teams have much more direct game very much based on duels, and we have to keep the ball on the ground and try to play according to our DNA responsibly. And in the defensive phase, we have to pay attention over the time by crack to the situations they can create, especially shots from outside the area, set pieces, all that. As the ball picks up a bit more speed, it's necessary to have very high levels of attention, concentration.
Jardim, Marcos Gabriel from Radio Vai Brazil, Italy.
It was your 4th game as Flamengo's coach. You haven't conceded a goal yet, and the defense was a big problem for Flamengo at the start of the season. And related to that, this week there was a Brazilian national team call-up, and 3 Flamengo defenders were called up: Alexandro, and Leo Pereira. I wanted you to talk a little about this good moment for Flamengo's defense and the importance of these 3 players to your team.
Regarding the defense, as I've already said, only intelligent and capable players can understand when we give them some organizational feedback. That's what happened during this time. We worked on some situations, not excessively, but in terms of organization, on specific points. At some moments they understood well, so I believe we are a little more compact. Although today in the first half, I didn't like 2 or 3 counter-attack opportunities, and we managed to rectify that at halftime. Regarding these 3 players, Leo, I think it's the first time I'm very happy for him because he's a player who has performed very well in recent years here at Flamengo. The other 2 are 2 historic players, aren't they? These are 2 players with a great deal of international experience, both in terms of national teams and clubs, Danilo and Alex Elec. And certainly in a competition of this kind, the coach also wants to have players with this international experience on his side and in managing the various moments.
Jardim, Mauro Santana's channel. Going back to talking about the Libertadores, what does it mean personally for you as a professional, the opportunity to compete in the most important competition on the continent? You're used to international competitions like the Champions League, and in a competition where in the last 7 editions, 4 of them were won by Portuguese coaches.
Certainly, it's a responsibility, and for me, representing Flamengo means having the obligation to play to win, because Flamengo always plays to win all competitions. Motivated because, as you said, there are already some Champions League games in Europe and the Champions League games in Asia as well. Therefore, this will be my South American Champions League. And for that reason, I believe it will be an experience to enjoy and to show the best version of Flamengo and of ourselves.
Jardim here, Bruno Medeiros from Disfla. Last year we saw an Arrascaeta who had his most prolific goal-scoring season of his career. And that was even different, right, because of that. This year, even before his arrival, he was already playing a little differently, and so far, he hasn't had the same brilliance he had last season. I wanted to know if with time, more time to work, when you have more time to implement your ideas, you plan to get Arrascaeta closer to being the goal scorer he was last year. Thank you.
Certainly, Vascaris' season last year was formidable. I don't know if it's easy to repeat the numbers he did last year, but I also believe, and what I have observed is that Arrascaeta is a player who evolves with the team throughout the year. Just the other day, something similar happened last year, and I also believe that this will occur. He's an important player, and even now, during the Botafogo game, I was talking to him and said, "You're not playing because I want to protect you. You can't play 80 minutes in a season, and players like you don't exist everywhere. We have a special player, and that's why we count on him a lot, believe in him, and want to protect him so he can have another important season this year at Flamengo."
Jardim, Corrigero. I'm putting together a special report touching on this matter of the Portuguese coaching market here, especially given that your representative, Bruno, and others have good connections here, all right? So much so that we might bring Arthur Jorge to Cruzeiro. I wanted to understand a little from your point of view, how does a Portuguese coach make decisions when talking to their agent, to the person who represents them like this? Brazil is a good place for me to go. I want to accept the offer, see the proposal for me. How does this transition work? This perspective from the Portuguese market, you mentioned Asia and so on, to decide to contact agents so that they accept and open doors here as well.
Honestly, I can't speak for other coaches, can I? I'm speaking for myself. I've had my life, choices. I spent a large part of my life in Europe, in various countries, in Portugal, Greece, France, Monaco. Then I decided to make a move to the Arab markets, where I was also in 3 countries, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates. And then I made a move to South America, to Brazil. These have been my decisions in terms of my career. I don't know what happens with other coaches. I saw it across every country where I worked. I've always been involved with teams possessing a strong ambition, teams consistently vying for top positions, and teams capable of consistently delivering the very best work. That's always been the essence of my coaching strategy. Then there are the other Portuguese coaches, and certainly the Portuguese are all over the world these days, right? Today, the Portuguese, thanks to their training and what happened the 90s, because it wasn't like that before. Portuguese coaches weren't all over the world. On the contrary, when I started my career, I met many Brazilian coaches in Portugal, and thank God I still maintain relationships with some of them. The greatest of them, Scolari, but there were many others working in Portugal, and I think that at this moment the same thing is happening as what happened in Brazil a few years ago, which is that the Portuguese are all over the world. Thank you.
See you on Sunday.